Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers is a weekly program designed to answer all your questions, including the ones you didn't even know you had, and to clarify the endless debates around the wonderful and fascinating world of sexuality. Join us for real talk about sex from two experts in the field. Richard and Larry Siegel have over 50 years of experience as sex therapists, educators, counselors, and researchers. The Siegel Brothers are recognized around the world as trainers of medical and mental health professionals.
Hello and welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
And I'm Ricky Siegel, a certified sex therapist and supervisor.
And my brother. I always like to start out with a toast to that.
Cheers.
Cheers, my
Awesome,
brother.
big brother.
And cheers to you.
Happy New Year.
Yes, indeed.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Yes, indeed.
What type of sake is this?
Well, I chose this because I know it is your favorite. This is the lychee sake.
Very nice.
So it's always a nice drink. You get it at the right temperature. It's really, really smooth. Really enjoy it.
So thank you for joining us for our end of the year show.
Indeed.
This will wrap up 2020, this dumpster fire of a year.
Yes.
For Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers.
I'm sure nobody is looking to hang on to this year. So I'm sure we're in a position like everybody else cannot wait for this year to be officially over. Right? But like we say every year, let's hope the next one is better. And let's hope that tonight we're not saying this like we did in 2019.
Which was,
glad 2019 is over.
Well,
hope 2020 is better.
This is one of those years, in 20 years from now, people will still be talking about 2020.
Yes.
Oh, good riddance.
Yes. So yes, here is to the end of 2020. And hopefully the end of a lot of the issues that we have been dealing with for this, pretty much the better part of this year.
Right.
All of this COVID stuff, all of the political nonsense, as if living under a pandemic was not enough.
Right.
We had basically our own little disease take hold in our Supreme Court.
Yes.
We had a couple of, let's say, outbreaks during this election. There's some people that really should never be holding public office, but now are. But that's also part of our
history. People who
history.
never have held public office that are appointed to these jobs they're completely unqualified for.
Which is part of the new normal. Right? There's a phrase that we've been using for years. It's really been used this past year. With COVID, but this idea of a new normal. We had crossed a line a while ago, it seems, to where now not knowing what you're doing, not having any experience, not having any credentials, seems to make one best fits for the jobs that they are not qualified to fill.
Yeah.
Right? So it seems like, we've crossed that line into upside down world.
Yeah. I remember, like it was so long ago, but when Obama was elected, and there was a little criticism, like, when is he going to get to the sexual health issues?
Right.
And of course, like, come on, give the guy some credit. He inherited a giant mess from W that had to be cleaned up. But even still, with 8 years, there was some movement, right? So for how many years have we been talking about, sexuality should not be politicized. It should not be, something that policy is based on, unless it's just like any other health issue.
Right.
Which it's not.
Which there should be some standards.
But like separation of church and state, right? Where's the separation between public policy and morality? And an attempt to legislate morality, certainly when it comes to sexuality.
But that's part of our history. That's what we do. Isn't that the irony of so-called libertarians and a lot of these political conservatives?
Yeah.
When they say, get government out of our lives, they don't mean that.
Well, they do in every area of our lives except women's uteruses.
Well,
and people's beds.
And people's bed, right. So when they really say, well, the reason I say they don't mean that is because it's not that they don't want government in their personal lives. They just don't want government in their wallets.
Right.
Every other place is more than fine for these people to allow the government to intrude in your bed, in your clothing drawers, in your closets, in your supermarkets, in your cars, everywhere except your wallet.
Yeah.
So I think
Don't
that's
forget
where
the nightstand drawer.
yes, that's exactly that's why I think these people are so disingenuous. That aside from the fact that you get really another beautiful irony that especially in this last year, but really in these last 4 years, how you get these people who, and I'll be generous and say barely made it through the 8th grade, that now are they consider themselves constitutional scholars.
Ah.
Right? Isn't it amazing how they're just experts on the nuances and the subtleties of the U.S. Constitution?
But, how do we make this about sex and sexuality? I think it's really, since they're so, bowing to the Constitution constantly, this sacred document, I think really in a nutshell, the Constitution, and I'd say even more importantly, all of the amendments to the Constitution are just about ensuring people's rights.
Yes.
Right? The only time that the Constitution was attempted to be changed to take people's rights away was Prohibition.
Right. Yeah.
Which we know what a clusterfuck that was. You can't make the law of the land to tell people, certain inalienable rights, like the right to get wasted.
Right. Well, let's take a step back. Let's take a step back for that, because you're absolutely right when we talk about all kinds of substance prohibitions, whether it was alcohol, then followed by cannabis, and then all the other drugs, and we know that all of our drug laws are rooted in racism. Every single drug that has been outlawed has been based on associating it with a minority population, with a particular group. But before all of this stuff, was ever even an issue, how long has it been that every sexual act other than heterosexual, man on top, penile vaginal penetration was illegal? Everything but those. Right? If you were doing any kind of sexual act that did not involve a man on top of a woman with his penis in her vagina, including ejaculating in her vagina, every other sex act has been illegal. And it's only been recently.
And if it's outside of the context of a heterosexual marriage.
Yes.
Right?
Well, that was the standard that we had to teach kids.
Missionary position PIV intercourse is illegal, or has been.
Right. Rear entry, woman on top.
People don't even understand sodomy as a legal construct, as a legal term. I mean, it's a biblical term, right?
But it means the same
city of Sodom and Gomorrah.
That's right, which was not about all these people having anal intercourse.
Yeah, people think that that's what it means.
Right.
It really is just because that definition of putting a penis anywhere.
Right.
Except in a vagina. And
there you go.
A married vagina.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
A vagina you're married to. And if somebody else was married to that vagina that you're sticking your penis into, then that's a problem. Right? At least for the woman, not generally for the man. Right? So again, we have a rich history of this kind of nonsense.
And you and I have a rich history of frustration and aggravation, because together we're, I guess combined, we have more than half a century of experience in this field. And the same question.
Probably closer to 60 years.
How depressing.
Yeah.
But the same question we often ask of our guests on the show, we should ask of ourselves. where have we made progress? What's been improving? What's still stuck? What has changed in the last 30 years?
Yeah.
What hasn't?
Right.
And, sadly, the list of what hasn't is much longer.
Well, it's much longer, and I think it's gone, a lot of those holes, so to speak, have been dug a lot deeper. Again, here we are. We are on the eve of 2021, and we still have not settled the legality, much less the availability and access to reproductive health care for women. We have not, in this day and age, with all that we have accomplished, really settled the law when it comes to contraception, birth control, and women's agency
abortion
over their own body.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really all abortion is. Forget people that think what other people do to their bodies is a moral issue for you. You need to get over yourself. This is about nothing more than allowing people to have control over their own bodies. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
But why is that such an issue? Right? Why 2021 we're still struggling?
Because it's really in our lifetimes, or just barely, the tail end of when a wife was still considered the legal property of her husband.
Right.
Right. Certainly in mom and dad's era. So it's just still pretty new, and in our lifetimes, that women have had rights over the fate of their own bodies.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, yeah, I get that it's new, but how long does it take for us to acknowledge that?
Let's take a little break and continue this rant.
Indeed.
Happy New Year.
So again, the legal aspects around sex and sexuality after all these years really aren't settled yet, right? But
and remain arbitrary and
yes,
absurd.
Yes,
right?
And absurdly arbitrary.
Yeah.
Right?
If you're really bored one day, just Google strange sex laws, and
yes, it'll tell you everything you really need to know. Right?
Yeah.
And we will do a show on that because it's just too much fun, right? Not to talk about.
And just to wonder what happened that made someone say, we need a law.
Right. And then taking that a step further, or a few steps further, somebody decided there was a need, and then somebody drafted legislation. It was discussed by committee. It was edited. It was voted on. It was approved.
Sent to a governor or a president for...
Yes, and it was signed into law. Right? And just to give you a little preview on what you can expect for some of that stuff, I think it was in Bakersfield, California. It is on the books. They went through this whole process to determine that it's illegal in Bakersfield, California, to have sex with Satan without wearing a condom. The city council voted on that. Right? So again, why are we so screwed up? Here's a little glimpse into a lot of that stuff.
And why do we wonder why our frustration doesn't go away?
Truly. So again, we have been ranting for the better part of this year about a lot of the stuff that's gone wrong. What's gone right? What have we gotten right? What can we name as some of our successes?
I started maybe 15 years ago noticing that millennials deserved some credit. Everybody was blaming them for everything, but I thought just in terms of pushing the needle further and quicker than I would have expected even 25, 30 years ago. Like things like marriage equality, transgender rights.
Such as they are.
Right? Well, it's not, millennials and Gen Zers that are carrying on. It's the same old aging boomers and our generation.
Right.
So I give a lot of credit for a better acceptance of gender and orientation diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like so many pendula, they tend to swing too far the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And again, politics, why is sexuality political? But it is.
Yes.
And why is, wokeness now colloquialism for watch your step, don't piss me off or you're going to be erased.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
very...
Right? For some of
Considering
you,
how far to the left, it smacks of fascism.
well, it really does. And for some of you who do identify as being woke, maybe you should go back to sleep a little bit longer. Right? I think you're not quite done. Again, I think there's a double-edged sword to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
You're right. There has been a lot of good that's come out of it, but it has been a lot of negative. And to the point that you just made, when you take the extremes on any part of that continuum, whether you're on the right or the left, you bend that line a little bit, those 2 points meet.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I've been saying for a while now is that you end up in exactly the same place. The far right and the far left are in exactly the same place. You just got there from different directions.
What we got to do in 2021, we will do a show with an evangelical woman and a feminist about porn. And I bet, to the surprise of both of them, whoever they might happen to be, they're going to be on the same...
Yeah, I bet you the same words are going to kind of come out of their mouth. So, so that really is an issue that we do have to look at. And I will say that one thing, and while as much as I agree and appreciate, there's a big part of me that really does appreciate what you were just describing about this, what people call identity politics, that we are broadening the acceptance. We're broadening the view of what we refer to as gender and how we treat it and just the role that it plays in people's lives. But I do think we have, like you said, that pendulum has swung too far over to the other side. And it really is this term identity politics. There really is this fascism of progressivism that has taken hold. That if you don't agree, look at all these people that are sitting there in a cafe on the street trying to enjoy breakfast, and some of these progressive people marching down the street wanting to make noise, and if they didn't want to get up from their breakfast to join them, they were vilified, right? That idea, if you're not with me in what I want to do, then you're the enemy, you're part of the problem. Again, that's not progressive. That is just as regressive as people that are easy to criticize on the far right side of the political spectrum. Yeah. So I think we have to be careful about that.
Sex ed has gone nowhere. There's been no progress. We still, if it happens at all, and it happens far more in other parts of the world than it does in the United States, it's still focused on consequences. Right. It's still about nasty STD slides.
That's right.
And teen pregnancy and date rape. No one's talking to young people about pleasure and consent.
That's
in
right.
meaningful ways that relate to pleasure.
Yeah.
Negotiating. People aren't taught how to enjoy their sexuality.
That's right. It's all fear-based. And again, while as much as I understand where it's coming from and the need for it, a lot of this affirmative consent focus is still all fear-based. It's still looking at sex as a dangerous thing, people using it as a weapon. Yeah. So, I would like to hope maybe 2021 is the year we can get a little sex positive. Right? Especially from those people that think they're being sex positive with all of this.
It just occurs to me now, while we're having this discussion, that COVID just kind of silenced, ironically. Oh my.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. At the beginning of the year, all of the, the movements about sexual harassment and I can't...
The Me Too movement?
The Me Too movement. I can't believe that slipped my mind, right? We got to pick that back up. It hasn't gone anywhere. I can't say we've improved all that much.
And if I can make a suggestion, maybe how we can move forward with that to do a little bit better, instead of something like Me Too, And I'm not saying everybody that's a part of it was. I think there really is a lot of empowering that came out of that. But I think it was also taken over more by the victim aspect of it. Right? These can't be victim movements. They have to be empowering movements.
Yes.
And we have to get people to better understand, just like I used to talk about with music videos, you know, and back in especially the 90s and, you know, and the Salt and Pepper and some of the rise of a lot of these girl groups, you know, would talk about the difference between self-empowerment and self-exploitation. And I think that's another line we have to talk a little bit more. That's right.
With the dog collar on.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Pining for the man she
around.
wants to be. Because I think now especially it's an important topic, and it's an easy one to lose sight of. Right? So, you know, let's try to make 2021 a good year. Right? Can't be any worse than 2020. I mean, how many years have we been saying that? But let's actually do something different. Let's maybe try to change some of the tide and do something positive.
Let's
create something positive.
To more sexy thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't that be a nice change of pace? Right? Instead of sexual fear, sexual anger, sexual entitlement, sexual transactions. How about just
sexy
be
thoughts.
sexy?
Think sexy thoughts.
Indeed. I'll drink to that, my brother. So,
we say goodbye to 2020.
Another year that I'm sure we're all happy to put behind us.
Yeah, but we certainly want to encourage you all to keep up the conversation, right? Even though we do our one night a week, it's always time for sex talk. We will continue to bring you our friends and colleagues and some of the choir and some controversy too. And we encourage you to please stick with us and share, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page and Instagram and all that good social media stuff. And we will see you next year.
Yes, indeed.
Next Friday night at 7 on the East Coast and every Friday for Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers.
Yes, indeed. So to another year in the books and hopefully a better one ahead. Thank you. Stay well. And again, let's be sexy.
Thanks for watching Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Join us each week on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can also follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay on top of the latest developments in the ever-changing world of sex and sexuality.